Hi everyone, John Day here. There seems to be some challenges with creating auto IDs or reference columns with auto-generated numbers. Now Office 365 SharePoint Online already provides this feature, but the requests are about better administration of them, such as adding a prefix or suffix to them, or starting or restarting the numbering system, which does seem to be a bit of an issue. Seeing as I'm going to be creating auto IDs myself for my booking system, I thought I'll do the videos on that first. And I'm going to do two videos on creating auto numbers. The first video will show a tidy way to take advantage of the built-in ID column in case that's all you need. If you need to administrate and manage your own, and that will be including adding prefixes, restarting the numbering. That will be the second video, and that will allow you to centrally manage all your ID columns across any lists, any sites that you're going to use. Okay, so let's give it a go. I'm going to start this demonstration totally from scratch. So everything I do, you can see, is out the box and is the default settings. So I'm going to start with a brand new list, which I'm going to be using as my bookings list for booking events or booking something special. So I'm going to do a site contents click, and then click new, click list, and it's going to be called bookings. And as a typical generic list, I've got a title column. I have other columns sitting in there as well, which are all the intrinsic and built-in columns. So if I go to the settings gear cog, go to list settings, and here you can see I've got the other columns available. There's no fancy columns that I'm looking for that auto-generate, but there is one. So if I go to the views and modify the default view that I've got called all items, you'll see that there is an ID column that's been in there for ages. It really has been there for ages, and it's a great one to use, but it's kind of restrictive. It's quite limited in what you can do with it. And let me give you a quick demonstration. So if I tick that now and click OK, there you go, it's my ID column. What I'm going to do is going to create a new item. So let's call this one new booking for Bob, but notice the ID doesn't appear in the form, so the users can't manipulate it or change it, but they also can't see it, and that's because the ID hasn't been generated yet. It won't generate an ID until it absolutely knows that I intend to save and keep this record. Otherwise, if I entered 17 items and clicked cancel 17 times, I'd have generated 17 numbers that would never ever be used. So the idea is that when I click save, only then does it put all the data in, generates the ID, and plops that into the ID column. And this is where it creates the problem, because what I would like to do is create a column that would take the ID number and make it go that one step further. Maybe I want to format it so it's a 6-digit number. Maybe I want to format it so it has BK as the prefix, to turn it into a proper booking reference number, if you like. So I could add a column. And I could, for this example, I'm going to show you what doesn't work, and people have tried doing, is they would use the old adage of the calculate column. So go to more, calculate column, there it is. And I'm just going to call this one Calc ID, without the caps lock on. There we go. Calculate column, but you'll notice that on the formula to the right of that, it doesn't show the ID column. There's a lot of columns that are in that list that I can't see there. Now, if you've seen a previous video, I actually showed how to create your own business generated version numbering system. So you'd use the SharePoint intrinsic one, which belongs to SharePoint and is for SharePoint's purposes, and then you could use like a base version. Maybe the document was version 10 in its older G drive, and when you upload it, you'd like it to start version 11, so that was what I did on the video, and I used sort of working with the version column, which is built into SharePoint. So in the same respect, I can, even though I know the ID isn't listed, I know it exists, I can put it in. Just going to convert that into a text field and tell it I want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits long, so put 6 zeros. Now if you've never seen this before, the text function is very familiar. You can do it in Excel, and it converts a number to text string and then allows you to format the text string in a sort of a particular way. And then at the beginning of that, I'm just going to tell it to display the word letters BK ampersand. So it's this. I'll just basically concatenated BK is a prefix and got it to 6 digits. And now this all looks good. You think, oh, this is brilliant. This is exactly what I want. Until you then think, right, okay, I've got the column built. Now let's go and create some more items. So you go create a new more item. Click save. And that happens. Why did that one work and that one didn't? Because when I created the column, that number already existed. When you click new and you build a brand new item, when you click save, the calc column calculates. However, the ID isn't generated at that point, so there is no ID. If I click save, the calculation is done first, then the ID is generated. So you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, then if I just go in and click the item, edit the item, change it in some way, now that I've changed the item, surely that calculation will recalculate. That's what it does, you know, you'd recalculate. But what it does, it only recalculates if the values it's pointing to change. Well, as far as it's concerned, the booking ID has not flagged up. Don't forget, although the booking ID was created afterwards, when I edit this form, there's no flag to that ID column to say I have been changed. So therefore the calculate ID looks at that column and says, well, there's no flag saying I've been changed. It hasn't changed at all. I'm not going to recalculate. And that's the problem. This is not the end of the world. Okay, what we have to do is we have to build a column, make it a text string if you like, and we can then pull the ID number in, convert it to text string and spit it into a regular text column. But the calculation process will be done through Power Automate. So I'm going to create a new column. I'm going to make this a single line of text because I want it to end up like this with all the text in there and the 6 digits. So I'm going to call this the PA ID, the Power Automate ID. And again, the column names are just for the demonstration. So again, I'm going to make this a single line of text and I'm going to click save. Okay, so it's the paid column. So now when I click new, and don't worry, the paid column is in there. I'll explain the problems with that in a minute. But the idea is if I click a title, what I like to do is save the item. And if this is a new item, at the moment I save it, I like Power Automate to trigger a flow that then manipulates the ID and sticks it in my new column under the new format. Let's give that a go. So what I need to do, I'm going to keep that sitting in the background there. I'm going to go to my app launcher and launch Power Automate. I'm just going to right click and do no tab just to be safe, super duper. And I'm going to click create to create a new one. I'm not going to use the templates. I know exactly what I want to do. I want this to be automated, run on the back of me clicking the save button. So I'm going to have an automated flow. I'm going to call this generate PA ID, and then in the choose your flows trigger, I'm going to type in the data connector I want, which is SharePoint. This gives me all the triggers that are available, but what I want is a trigger on only a new item. So if I can see it, there it is, when an item is created, to filter it down a bit more. So when an item is created, not created and modified, only when it's created, click and then create. Okay, so I'm going to build a new Power Automate, tell it the site and the list that I want to work with for the Auto ID. So if the site you're looking for, whether it's SharePoint site or connected to Teams, it doesn't matter, but if that site is not in the list, then all you've got to do is just go back to the SharePoint site, right click on the little logo in the top left corner there and copy link address. And then when you return back to Power Automate, don't type it or paste it in the box there, because that box at the top there is a search box to search for the existing lists. What you do instead, scroll to the bottom and say, I'm teaching you a new URL by entering a custom value. And then you paste it in. Okay, so underneath that, if I click, give it a few seconds, because if it's a brand new site it's not seen before, it might take a little while for it to generate the list names, but then will come up all the lists that you've got. And don't forget, there's my bookings list. So when an item's created in that list, I want this Power Automate to run. And what I want to do is I want to get that item. So I'm going to create a new step. And I'm going to go a quick search for SharePoint. I'm going to start with update item first. Okay, update item. Same again, I need to tell it which site and list this particular action is working on, because I might be working on multiple SharePoint lists. I'm not. Now, hopefully at this point, the site you're working on should be listed. If it hasn't, it does take a little while. Just repeat the previous step and paste the URL as a custom value. I've already got it in here, so I'm going to click it. Again, pick the list name, and it's now asking for the ID. Well, the ID of the item I want to update is the one that I've created. So I want to grab the ID from this trigger. So I'm going to go into the item box here, look for the matching when an item is created. There's only one, but I always do this as a reference because it just makes you always check as you build more and more actions. There's the ID, and I'm going to just plop that in there. You'll notice then underneath that I've then got the columns that I want to update. Now if the column hasn't been changed, you just put its field name, its dynamic content in there to say keep. It's like saying keep the title the same. And the paid, I want to take the ID number and manipulate it like I did with the previous one. I want a BK, and then I want a 6-digit number. Formulas and functions are kind of similar to Excel. That was designed deliberately to be like that, and you do that through the expression. So if I go to the expression, here we go, and then I'm going to say I want the expression to be, first of all, that concat thing, because I want the BK at the beginning. So the concat function is a good way to do this. So in the concat, I'm going to say, well, I'd like it to start with, and then in single quotes, you put the prefix that you'd like at the beginning of your number. There we go. I'm just going to go the other side of that single quote, comma, and then tell it what I want to pull in as the ID, but I want to format that ID in a particular way. So where I use the text column, that doesn't exist here, but instead I use the format number. Okay, same sort of arguments that I put in. So I'm going to put in the open parenthesis bracket, specify the field or the value that I wish to format. Again, that's the ID one. So while my cursor is inside those new parenthesis brackets, I'm going to click on the dynamic content and go looking for the ID. There it is. Okay. When you've done that, just check to make sure where your cursor is. You want it before both of the close parenthesis brackets, because we're still carrying on with this format number function. So after the ID and that square parameter bracket, put in a comma, and then we're going to specify how many digits, very much like you saw on my first very quick demonstration. So inside single quotes though, I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want 6 digits. You can put in as many zeros to represent how many digits long you want your code to be. If I click OK, that adds a nice little magenta coloured expression in there. Always check your flow checker as well. If you get any errors in there at this particular point, it could well be with the expression and you've got a typo in there or something. Okay, so I've got it to now update the item, and I've asked it to update the paid with my new formatted number. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to keep the Power Automate tab open just in case there's any bugs, any things I've got to fix. Now I'm going to go back to my SharePoint list. I want to see if my paid one works. So I'm going to click New, going to put in a title, new booking for Bob, whatever what data you normally fill in. Notice the paid column does appear. Don't worry about that, I'm going to fix that in a moment. But if I save that, at first the paid column doesn't seem to look like it's worked. You think, oh no, I've just done it, but it hasn't worked. Your Power Automates can take up to 5 minutes to run, so it's not going to run immediately. Now that can be a bit confusing. If I just give it a bit of time, press F5 and keep pressing F5, although I'm not going to let the video run for 5 minutes. This is unavoidable, but this I will keep pressing refresh. There, all of that, didn't have to wait that long. It has generated the number. Look at that, it has worked. Boing, boing. Now there's my concern, number one. When they create a new item, nothing appears in the paid. How does the end user that's filling the stuff in know that that's not a bug and go and try and change it or try and update it or keep refixing it? So little thing I do, and it's up to you if you want to do this. I'm going to click on the drop down box. I'm going to go into the column settings. I'm going to edit this paid column, and I'm going to put in a default value. Put in anything you like there, but it's going to be like a placeholder that lets them know the number's not there. So I'm going to have it appear in square brackets saying getting new ID. So this is kind of a little thing to say we are generating it and to let them know it has worked. It's text, it's been stored in the text box, but the Power Automate, when it runs, will overwrite that. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to see if that works. So I'm going to click new, and if I just put in some text there into the title, and if I click, you can see it's already got the getting new ID. If I click save, I see the getting new ID, so I think, okay, it's working, I don't have to worry about that, I ain't got to change it anyway. And then over time, eventually the Power Automate will run, and that getting new ID will be replaced. Now they'll probably phone and go, oh, I've got to get the number back to the person. I've got to email it to them. Tell them we can create an Power Automate that once the ID is created, then we can have it automatically send the email to the user and confirm, oh, by the way, your booking has now been given an ID number, here it is, and just to confirm you've now booked. So there's, it's not the end of the world. We can have this all automated, even if the user themselves is filling that booking in. We've given them information that it's being processed. Look at that. Here's my final problem with it though. When I create a new item, worse still, if I edit the item, my end users can change that. it's like, oh, I've just got around that Calc ID thing, which wasn't working, and now we've found that we've still got another problem. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. Here's how you get around that. This is where we can use a Calc ID and make it work to our advantage. So I'm now going to remove that Calc ID because I don't want it. We've now seen that that paid works, and the best way to do that, I think, is actually through the list settings. I'm going to go to the settings here, list settings, there we go, and then I'm going to click on my Calc ID. I don't need it anymore, and you would not have created that. Hopefully you would have ignored that bit. That was just a demonstration. I'm going to delete that Calc ID. Instead, I'm going to create another calculated column. So click create column, and this will be called the proper name booking ID. This is the one I want the user to see, so I want it to have this presentable proper name. It is a calculated column, but all it's going to do is grab my paid. So it can say equal, and I'll double click on the paid. Single line of text. Okay, go to the bottom, click OK. Go back to bookings. I've now got two of them. Now I'm going to turn the paid off eventually in the list, but what's most important is when I click new, when a new item is generated, the booking ID doesn't appear. If they edit any one of those bookings, the booking ID cannot be changed. If I click that pencil and go my heart's content, it's not letting me change it. So all I've got to do is hide the paid column from my list, and then I need to remove the paid column from the form. But I'm just going to get rid of that paid one first. So I'm going to go into my list settings, and I'm going to go back into my view, and I'm going to remove the paid. Don't forget the paid is the generated one by Power Automate. Cool, there we go. So that now disappears. Then, and more importantly, I've got to hide it from the form. There's two ways you can do this. I'm going to show you a way without Power Apps, which is probably better. So to do that, list settings. I need to customize that column and hide it. Now the way you do that is by going into the lists localized, if you like, it's initialized content type. The content type is the sort of like the template structure of where the columns are and how you can sort of manage them from a slightly higher level. Now to do this, you need to go to your advanced settings, and right at the top of the advanced settings you tell it, I want to manage my content types. So allow management of content types, set that to yes. Go to the bottom and click OK. What that does is it displays a new structure inside your list settings called content types. Here is your instance, if you like, of the content type specifically for this list. So if I click on the item, you will see the columns that are in there. The paid one is the one that is at risk of being changed by the users. So I'm going to click that. And here I say I want this column to be hidden so it does not appear in forms. So I'm going to click OK. This is all just a nice clean way of doing it without having to go into Power Apps and customize it. It's just a nice clean way, and it stays that way. So if I now go back to my bookings, so I can see the paid there, I can still tweak it, work it as the owner of the site and the owner of the list. But as an end user, when they go in and create a brand new item or edit an item, it's generated automatically and it's safely preserved from end user tweakiness. It won't let them change it. Why didn't these other ones change? Because my Power Automate only works on new items. If you're building a list, you're doing it from scratch and getting that done before you actually make it go live anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem for that. So a bit like magic like this, and again, because that's a nice lovely little column ID, I can drag that around, I can put it in any order I want, so I can even have that booking ID right at the beginning. Here we go. Fantastic. Just the way we like it. Now don't forget there's a part 2 video to this, but in the meantime, if you have any questions about this video or any other video that I've done, please add them into the comments. You can contact me through all the social media addresses that I've got on the screen there, and don't forget to click subscribe so that you can be kept up to date with all the new videos that I release. So hope that's useful to you. Stay safe, have fun, and look out for video part 2.